You ever wake up thinking it's going to be a regular day only to find out your world's been flipped upside down before you even get your boots on? That was me, 5:30 in the damn morning, jerked awake by the sound of chainsaws eating through the thick trunks of oak trees. My great-great-granddad planted himself way back when folks still did things by hand and believed in leaving something behind. Those trees. They weren't just timber. They were living chapters of my family's story, standing guard over this ranch through war, drought, heartbreak, and every wild thing life could throw at us. And now, here they were falling, all because some suit with a clipboard decided to cut them down. So yeah, I bolt outside, adrenaline kicking, thinking I can stop it all if I just get there fast enough. I'm yelling, waving my arms, and that's when I come face to face with the HOA director, Dr. Cordelia Ashworth, former city planner, likes to walk around like she invented every rule in the book. She smiles at me, not the warm kind either, and says, "Should have read the fine print." You know what I mean? The kind of line you hear in a courtroom drama, not when your family's legacy is hitting the dirt. But what Cordelia didn't know was that my land was legally protected since 1896, no less. Thing is, at that moment, I didn't know it either. All I could see was red. I call the cops expecting at least some backup. Instead, Police Chief Morrison shows up, and in a move I still can't quite believe he slaps me with a restraining order on my own damn property. Next thing I know, Morrison's the one in cuffs. But let me back up a sec, because this mess is bigger than just a few trees and one greedy woman. It's about a criminal conspiracy that stretched across states, hiding in plain sight until it crashed right through my front door. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another David versus Goliath story, right? But stick with me, because I promise you the way this all shakes out will have you rethinking just how deep the rot goes. My name's Caspian Holloway, 42 fifth generation on this patch of earth, and I build custom furniture from the same oak and pine that's been sheltering my people since 1823. I grew up with the sunrise in my face and sawdust in my lungs, and those oaks, man, they watched over me, my dad and his dad before him. I'd sit on the porch, coffee in hand, watching that golden light cut through branches so thick you'd swear they could hold up the sky. These trees weren't just wood, they were memory. And every morning I'd feel like I was living in a world my ancestors built with calloused hands and hard choices. But Cordelia, she wasn't from here. She came in 8 months ago, all sharp lines and polished speeches, fresh off a career running city hall somewhere people forget. Turns out she'd been eyeballing my property for a while with files 2 inches thick and backroom meetings with folks calling themselves Heritage Land Acquisition Partners. I didn't know any of this yet. All I saw was the paper trail first, a letter about aircraft navigation hazards. I live 30 miles from the nearest airport. Then notices about underground utilities, wildlife threats, disease, risk, you name it. Each notice sounded fancier than the last. Each one more urgent, more impossible until complying meant draining every dollar and every hour I had just to keep up. What got me wasn't just the nonsense reasons. Hell, I know a scam when I see one, but how coordinated it all was. Every problem she raised came with the same solution. Remove the trees. That's it. Cut them all down. I burned through money on lawyers who couldn't give me a straight answer, spent hours on hold with the county, everyone pointing fingers somewhere else. But then this one county clerk, Isadora, says something weird. "Are you sure your land should be federally protected?" And before she can explain, the call drops. When I ring back, I get a new voice, and suddenly there's no record of my protection. Like the system itself was in on it. I'll be real, I almost gave up. I was tired, broke, angry, and watching the best part of my land turn to mulch under someone else's boots. And then came that Thursday morning sun, barely up air, still cool, and the sound of chainsaws ripping into my heart. The crew was led by this guy Boone, big as a barn door, waving around a work order that looked official but felt off, all county seals and signatures that didn't quite match up. Cordelia, watching from her black SUV, tells someone on the phone Phase 1 is proceeding on schedule. like it's a war. I try to shut them down, but Boone's got paperwork. Deputy Silva hands me a restraining order, and I'm threatened with arrest if I so much as get close. The language was dense and mean, full of statutes, compliance, safety, you name it. I stood there powerless, while my family's legacy fell tree by tree under the roar of machines. By noon, the oaks were on the ground, bleeding sap like tears, and the crew packed up with the same cold efficiency they'd brought to destroying my history. That night, desperate, I went digging through my granddad's attic, looking for anything that could help. You know how old houses have secrets hidden behind a false panel. I found a metal box full of surveyor maps from 1896 letters between my ancestor and the National Historic Preservation Commission. Turns out this land wasn't just old, it was a federally protected heritage preserve, signed, sealed, and locked down by laws meant to outlast any local nonsense. With that, the game changed. I called in an environmental lawyer, Thessaly Voss Sharp, no nonsense, the kind of woman you want in your corner when the world's gone sideways. She looked at the documents, called a few contacts, and told me straight up if Cordelia knew about the protection, this was a federal crime. Conspiracy, fraud, you name it. But Thessaly wasn't about to tip our hand. She brought in a private investigator, Max, and we let Cordelia think she'd won while we built our case. Max dug up everything. Turns out Cordelia was no simple HOA boss. She was a paid consultant targeting federally protected lands all across the country, working with a network to file fake reports, bribe local officials, and clear the way for luxury resorts. She'd even recorded herself boasting about how once the trees are gone, the protection is meaningless. She had maps deals and developer contracts planning to turn my valley into a $47 million golf paradise for out-of-towners selling historic ambiance with photos of the same oaks she destroyed. So we set the trap. I played the broken man, invited Cordelia and her crew to my kitchen. Her shark lawyer, Demetrius, a so-called federal compliance expert named Octavia, and this finance guy, Lysander, all smelling like money and arrogance. I acted confused, signed what they needed, all the while recording their every word. Cordelia bragged about bypassing old federal rules, showed me how they'd been flipping protected land across Texas, Colorado, Montana. She explained their playbook, right their maps, and all too cocky to realize she was confessing to everything. The next day, Thessaly sent the tapes to the FBI. Special Agent Donnelly showed up at my place with a team and warrants. Cordelia, Demetrius, Octavia, Lysander. They all went down, and so did Chief Morrison, the same man who'd handed me that restraining order. Turns out he'd been taking bribes to keep local cops out of the way. The house of cards tumbled. Dozens more across 7 states were arrested. They found records, bank accounts, property deals, over $300 million in stolen protected land. Now let me tell you, watching Cordelia get cuffed, sputtering about following proper procedures, that was sweet. But the best part was getting my land back. Federal protection restored the oaks replanted from acorns saved by botanists, and the story spreading far beyond our county. School groups started visiting, families dropped by to ask questions, and neighbors who once gave me the cold shoulder came forward with their own stories of HOA intimidation. Even Mrs. Whitfield down the road admitted Cordelia had tried to buy her farmhouse under false pretenses. The FBI used our case as the blueprint, rolling up similar rackets in other states, returning land, bankrupting corrupt developers. These days, my ranch is a national landmark. We host workshops on environmental law and preservation. Kids come to learn how to stand up to the system, how to fight for what's right, even when every sign says give up. I make furniture from reclaimed wood with stories as rich as the grain itself. Those new oaks out back, they're not just trees, they're living proof that sometimes if you dig deep enough, you can outlast the worst greed and leave something better for the next soul who calls this place home. I sit out on my porch now, sun coming through those branches, thinking about the old man who started all this, how he saw trouble coming and left us a way out. Cordelia thought she was stealing from one guy, but all she did was wake a sleeping giant, a legacy, a law, a whole community that refused to roll over. Justice took 2 centuries to show up, but when it did, it hit like a freight train. So here's my question for you. If someone came for your legacy, your land, your history, would you stand up or would you let them bulldoze it for a quick buck? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about what justice really means and who gets to decide how our stories end. Because I'll tell you right now, this isn't just my fight, it's all of ours.